Hey guys, how's it going? Just checking in. How's it going? Just gonna keep saying, how's it going? Anyway, that's enough of that crap. All right, so we were out of town last week. We did do a couple things on Saturday for the other channel, Adam and Anna. Just a couple quick skits. But yeah, we got home late Friday, and it was just kind of like, I could do a video, or I could just relax. And it was a long drive, because we went down to Portland, which was a lot of fun. Great stuff, great stuff. And we went to Astoria and Long Beach and a couple other areas. So it was a good vacation. But anyway, I wanted to get back to our videos. Last time we left off on how I met Anna and first year at Tecumseh and stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of continue that journey. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go over every single date that me and Anna ever went on. I'm not going to go over other private things I will not speak of on camera because I'm a classy gentleman. But, we'll just talk about some of the steps of our relationship and, how we eventually got to be married and stuff. Just because, why not? Fuck it, what else am I doing? Why am I such language, Adam? Why do you have to curse? Why? Because I'm a heathen, I tell you. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, as I mentioned in the college video there, my last year of college, me and Anna had started doing the long distance thing, which I was nervous about, because, a lot of my friends were just like, oh, well, she does live in another state. How's that going to work? And let me tell you that if you yourself are entering into a long distance relationship or whatnot, or have to be separated for a while, it can work. Now, long term, no. Not like super long term, but it's not going to work for everybody. I think there are cases where it can work, and obviously it worked out for us okay. But I think, I wouldn't want to do it for 20 years, where you don't see each other at all. Yeah, that would just be too hard, I think. But we did it for a while. But I think both of us had to learn. And for me, it was difficult because, obviously, this is like my first relationship besides my 7th grade girlfriend. And at that time, in 7th grade, you really don't know what the hell you're doing. And frankly, I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. As I mentioned in the Tecumseh video a little bit with the first thing, it was, I was constantly like, oh God, I'm going to mess this up. And I would be constantly like, when I hang out with her, I'm like, I hope I'm not bugging you. I'm not bugging you, am I? We're not clinging to you, because I did have a tendency to do that, where I'd make a friend, and then I would just kind of follow them around a lot. Oh, you're going out? Oh, I'll drive with you to the thing. I did it with my friend Duck a lot. Like, oh, you're going to eat? I'll go to eat with you. I'll come along. And sometimes it's like, okay, I can get, and I know the word cleany. I guess it is kind of cleany, but it's not like, it was just kind of finding your place, and growing. So I think I was trying to avoid doing that with Anna, where I was like, I hope I'm not bugging you. But then I constantly ask, does she seem to be having a good time? I'm not screwing this up. It was just kind of an insecurity thing, just because, like I said, no one ever said yes before. So hold on, let me just check. Someone texted me. Why you texting me? Who is this? What is it? What? Mm-hmm. Okay, nothing important. All right, sorry about that. Sorry, where was I? Oh, yeah. But yeah, there was certainly an insecurity with that. So adding into the fact of going back to school for my last year, which at that time I was hoping was going to be my last year, and then having the added thing of oh my God, I don't get to see, because I was seeing her practically every day, because we were all on the mountain. That's where we were located. And then to go from that to being like, well, not sure when the hell I'm going to see you next, Nick. And, and she admittedly was not the best communicator either, in terms of we didn't talk on the phone. Because this was 2000. What in the... I'm trying to record here. What is going on? What are you texting me for? Okay, whatever. Anyway, It's nothing too important. Someone I can contact back later. Um, but yeah, so where was I? Oh yeah, I was talking about relationships. I'm Adam. Anyway, so yeah, this is obviously 2002, and so cell phones now it's like that right there. Now it's like text and all sorts of stuff. That time there wasn't text messaging much. I don't think it was really a big thing yet, and and all that stuff. So, and I just had like a little flip phone and stuff like that because I'm one of those old people. But they brought it back. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of conversations, and I don't even know if Anna had a cell phone at the time. Um, so yeah, so we would usually email. But the thing is, Anna would be busy at college, and her dad had to explain this to me later that she sometimes would get wrapped up in theater stuff and then not get back to people a lot. And she's admitted that too. Like, it was why some relationships didn't work. She wasn't the best communicator, you know. And with my frazzled, anxiety-ridden mind, being in my first real relationship, it was just like, oh God, oh God. But like, I would at least get an email every month. So at the very least, that was something at least. So, and I would look forward to those emails. But I think that there was times I was more stressed out, and there was stuff with, drama stuff, as I mentioned, that there would be, frustrations there, and then I was like, oh, thinking about my girlfriend, but like, and then of course you have other people around you who are just like, well, long distance relationships don't work. Or don't always work, or whatever or just like, I don't even know if this person really exists. Fuck you. Anyway, and most of the people were friends. I was like razzing. I get it, but like it'd be like it's annoying when you're just focusing on something. You're like, I'm just gonna be negative about your relationship. Why? It's not your relationship. What do you care? But anyway, I will get on a whole thing there, but. So we got through that first year, first couple months with emails, and I remember I think it was like after those months, I think I did talk to her on the phone around Christmas, if I remember, and I think I mentioned how like, oh, I just feel like I haven't gotten a chance to really talk to you all that much, and yeah, because that's why I don't think she did have a cell phone, because when she was at school she didn't have a cell phone, but. So I would only get to, like, when she went home for Christmas to her parents' house, I would get to talk to her then. And I think I mentioned, like, can we email a little bit more? Or, at least email, maybe occasional phone conversations when we can. Because they did have a phone in their room, but it was like she was sharing it with roommates. College. So anyway, long story short, too late. I had, I of course wrapped up my senior year, and we talked a lot more via emails and things like that. Would enjoy conversations and stuff like that. And then I was hoping that she was going to go back to Tecumseh, but she actually ended up going to this thing called Interlochen, which is up in Michigan. I'm trying to think of what spot in Michigan it is, but it's like about lower Michigan, I think, lower southern Michigan. And so that was kind of like, oh, fuck, because, my whole thing was like, oh, we'll be back at Tecumseh, we can have a great time, and, we'll get to spend the whole summer together and all that stuff. It was getting in my mind. And then, of course, the turnover was too good for Tecumseh. I almost didn't go back to Tecumseh the second year, because I was like, oh, I'm going to see what else is out there. I auditioned, and I think I mentioned the thing, I auditioned with this monologue called Extremities, which was, I don't know if I did mention it or not, but because me and my friend Brett went to audition for the same place I went the previous year to get the Tecumseh job, and I just remember for some reason I chose this monologue from Extremities, which was basically this attempted rapist that tries to rape this woman and stuff like that, and she basically tortures him and stuff like that. But like it's basically like, oh, you bitch, it's like it really like, and I'm just like as I do this audition, I'm just like watching all their eyes, and like I'm just like, okay. This is not getting the desired reaction that I was hoping. I think I got one callback. It was for Red Barn, which Brett actually got a callback to, and he actually ended up doing that, which was good for him. I just decided, I'm like, I ended up reaching out to Marion, and who was the producer, and says, you have any any roles left at Tecumseh? Because I wanted to get, since Anna was going away, I was like, I don't want to freaking be here. I gotta get out of this town. I gotta get out of this town. I'll go back to Tecumseh. So luckily he did. It was Jebediah Whitlock was the character's name, and it wasn't a huge part, but I would be in ensemble. I got to actually do. There's a drill where these marching the drill and all that, and I got to be a part of that year, which I didn't get to the previous year because I was playing this other role, and so that was cool. It took some time for me to get it though. Like I would get frustrated because I wasn't getting it right, or I wasn't doing it right, or getting all the we had the stuff with the weapons. You had to we had the guns and all that. And we had to do all the kind of salute stuff, which I'm uncoordinated bastard. I'll fully admit it. So it took me a little while to get that stuff. But yeah, I remember I had a good relationship with the guy Ray Bud there, because he was my boss when I was an actor technician the previous year, and so there would be a couple times where I'd be like, you want me to help with it? I'll help you guys lay the tarps down or something. Like there would be cable nights, or like kind of one night he said, my back's hurting, you want to help? I'm like, I got you. So I would just help him lay the tarps down here and there, help him out. I didn't have to do most of the other like running in the rain thing that I had to do the previous year, luckily, but I didn't mind helping out, and that was, it was cool. As far as the summer goes, though, it was still a fun summer, but it was a different kind of summer. Like a couple of the people were returned from the previous year, like my friend Kyle and Nick Nolte. Yes, I have a friend named Nick Nolte. It's spelled a little bit differently, but he was there. Bobby came back, my friend Bobby, and Aaron Brakefield and somebody like that. So a lot of the guys that I'd been pretty good friends with the previous year. So that was cool, But of course Anna wasn't there, so then there was the whole thing like And I remember like, luckily I did actually get to see Anna, and it was almost like for our 1 year anniversary. I was frustrated because I wanted to drive up there, but I knew I couldn't drive all the way up from Southern Ohio to Southern Michigan by myself safely, because I hadn't really driven that far by myself safely. Especially to some place I'd never freaking been, and I get lost. This is before GPS and Google Maps and all that stuff was more of a prominent thing. Anyway, after some discussions and all that, I tried to like rope some other people like in, like, hey, you want to ride with me? And but then it's like saying, they're like, well, what are we gonna do? You're just gonna be out, you're gonna be with on a necking and shit. What am I gonna do? I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. So by my parents, to their credit, drove down. They drove down to Tecumseh, and then they drove me overnight to. My dad drove us up to Southern Michigan so that I could see Anna, and get to spend the day with her on that Sunday. Because we had Sundays off. We would do shows Monday through Saturday, and then we would have Sundays off. Would be our off day for Tecumseh, and. So it was super cool. And the other sucky thing about Interlaken is that they didn't have like really good working phones where you couldn't like call them and stuff. And of course, Anna having the cell phone, so it's like I've no way of getting a hold of her. So I'd have to wait for her to call me. But it was a weird system. And like I said, at Tecumseh they had the pay phones. We had the 3 pay phones, and sometimes you'd miss a call. Like, oh damn it. So we did. We went up to her, and we got to get there. Me and my mom walked around the space for a while before I could finally find her. I ended up having to actually call her dad, and he told her kind of where I was supposed to meet her and all that. Since I couldn't get a hold of her with the cell phone, I had to call her dad. And he was super nice, and helpful about it. But like, yeah. And then I finally got to see her, and it was interesting because Anna's, she's about 5'7". Of course, I'm super tall. If you've never seen me stand up in these videos, I'm 6'5", but she's still reasonably tall for a girl. So I just remember I walked into the room, and I just remember like there she was, and she was kind of actually towering over the other girls, and I was like, hey, that's Anna, and it was like, since I hadn't seen her in a year, that kind of thing when you haven't seen someone for a while, and then it's like seeing them for the first time. And so that was super cool. And then, it was, she gave me a big hug and a big kiss and all that stuff. So it was, it was nice. And we spent the day together. We saw Matrix Revolutions. What was it? Not Revolution. Is it Revolutions? No, Reload. Reload. We saw Reload. That's when that was out. And people bumming around these apartment here. So anyway, we saw that. We spent the day together, had dinner. I just came back to my parents' hotel room because my dad pretty much just went ahead and slept the whole day, so that he could, drive us back on Monday to get me back Monday morning and all that, so that I'd be, ready to clean my gun and all that stuff, because like I said, we had live ammunition and stuff like that. No bullets, obviously, but it was basically just loaded grass and you had the gunpowder and stuff like that. So we had to clean our guns every day and do all that stuff. But so yeah, it was super fun, and you just got to hang out with my parents, and I should have fallen asleep in the apartment, the hotel. Like, yeah, it's fine. She felt embarrassed about that. I'm like, that's whatever. You got tired, whatever. We all get tired. But it was a super fun day. It was a great first anniversary for us and stuff like that. And obviously, I didn't know when I'd get to see her in person again. My hope was that she was going to be able to, come visit Tecumseh later that summer. But unfortunately, when she got done, she wasn't able to come down there. And I don't think she had a car yet then. Yeah, because she didn't have a car. I think she had her license, but she didn't have a car yet. So, like, it wasn't like she was going to be able to drive down either from Virginia and stuff. But yeah, I can remember it was funny because I had this great, day with her. And then it was like a couple weeks later, there was this other girl, I can't remember her name. I remember her name, but I'm not going to like, oh, this girl did this. But like, I remember like one weekend, her boyfriend came down to see her. And they spent the time together and all that. And then like, we were at a party and I just like see her making out with this other guy the next week. And then of course my insecure ass mind was just like, oh my God, what if this is happening in Interlaken too? And clearly Anna wasn't, but like, it was just like, you get that stupid stuff in your mind where you're just like, oh my God. And that's the thing with long distance too. It's bad enough when you're in the same town, but like, it's like, oh my God, she could be out with some other guy. No, And so I got, a bit paranoid about that stupid shit, and when we'd have phone conversations, if she'd mention another guy, I'd be stupid and be like, oh, who's that guy? Like, oh, it's no one, it's like, I had to reassure my ass, but like I said, insecurity, maturity, learning, important things to know, especially when you're in a long distance relationship, is just, one thing I advise would be is like, be patient, especially if you're in the long distance relationship, it's like, you need to be secure, because if you're constantly worried about them cheating on you, it's not going to work, 'Cause, I mean, there were moments where I'm like, oh God, what did that happen? But what, get a point where you're reassured and you're like, okay, everything's fine. And so the great thing was we were able to talk on the phone a lot more after that summer. So we get to actually talk on the phone. We'd have emails too, but like, we talk on the phone. And I had toiled with the idea at this time, because I had graduated now. I toiled with the idea of moving to Cincinnati, just for a little while, just to kind of, I didn't know how long term I was going to be there, but like, just to get a start, Now, I would be full admittance that I'd never been to Cincinnati before this, and I had no idea what the town was like or what the theater scene was like. It was just like, yeah, they go to Cincinnati. I hadn't looked into it at all. So Doug and Nick Nolte and this other guy, Dean Muhammad, we actually took a trip down there to Cincinnati and kind of spent the day there and checked it out and all that. Not a bad town by any means. Nick was originally from Baltimore area, so he said it reminded him a lot of Baltimore. We had a good time, but it was one of those things it wasn't one of those things where I was convinced that like, yeah, I'm gonna move here. But it was like, I kept it in mind. I think I even told Randy, like, I'm thinking about going to Cincinnati, and he's like, oh, that's good, because I said, I know Chicago's the big place to be, but he admitted, like, yeah, it's a big city, so, because that was the other thing. Well, I'm gonna go to Chicago because that's where I was going to Chicago. But it was the closest place from South Bend was Chicago, so it's like, oh, just go there. I wasn't going to New York. I wasn't Broadway bound, so it's like I wasn't trying to be in film so much. So maybe someday, who knows? But So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go to LA. So it's like, well, Chicago makes sense. But anyway, so long story short, I didn't move to Cincinnati because it was just kind of one of those kind of whim things. Like, I think I'll move to Cincinnati. I'm graduating. I should just get out of here and do something. And it wasn't a bad idea in terms of being independent. But it wasn't like I was like, man, I got all this money saved and I have all that, it was like, I hadn't even had a plan to save money yet at this point. It was just, I lived with my parents, until I was 25. So through college and just a little bit past college. That's the way it worked out. Yeah, so, got back in the fall. I went back and worked at Myers, which was this, not Fred Meyer, but it's a company in the Midwest called Myers. Very much like Walmart, big supercenter thing. And I'd worked there for several years off and on. I would this was kind of before I knew how leave of absences worked. So, like, I could have just taken a leave for the summer and come back, but, like, I kept just quitting and restarting. Which I learned was it's better to actually just stay and take a leave because then you still get paid. But I knew that then I would have gotten paid the entire summer along with my constant paycheck. But also, like, I went back and I started working there, so I was doing that, and I was kind of considering what, maybe try to save some money and try to, like, figure out a plan, whether it was moving to Cincinnati or Chicago or whatever I was going to do. Because Anna still had another year before she graduated where she was going, Longwood University in Virginia. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just kind of see how it goes. Like, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to be with Anna as soon as possible, but I didn't want to rush it either because I'm like, oh, let's see how things go. She's got college. We'll see what things figure this out. So I had also I did a couple of directing scenes for our friend David Boyer. He was like a year behind me. And he asked me to be in a directing scene. One was just one that was kind of movement as he was taking directing class. And so it was just kind of all movement things. Now, I give David Boyer a lot of credit because much like a lot of directors out here, he was able to like pinpoint, okay, you're doing atomisms. Like things like, I'm doing this thing with my arms. That's an atomism if you haven't told. My big ass hands. That's just me being me. So he would kind of be like, oh, stop doing that. Do this, so I give him a lot of credit for that. That was cool. I did a second one for him, which was, I got to be Biff in Death of a Salesman, which was kind of a dream part. So that may be the only time I ever get to play that role, but it was cool. I enjoyed it. I would do it with Jeff Taylor. And I actually used the fake cigarette thing, so I had to smoke a cigarette for that scene. Which is the only time I ever smoked a cigarette. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a good scene. Even Doug said he thought it was a strong performance. And he had actually done a directing scene for someone as well. And I just remember this time, and Brett had told me, and this isn't too big of a deal, but it was kind of bothersome, that this other girl, I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to make a big dramatic thing, because that's not a big thing. It's water under the bridge, whatever. People talk, it is what it is. But I guess she was in some conversation. She's like, yeah, why do Adam and Doug think we have to be like all happy that they're here? With like, why haven't they moved on? Why are they doing directing scenes? And it's something to that thing. It's just like that we should just be happy to see them. Why, it's just like, first of all, fucker, I just got back from my summer job. I'm sorry. At the summer job, I didn't have time to just make tons of money to immediately move to someplace and have plus I had a long distance relationship going on with my girl, so there's things that factor I was still kind of figuring out what I was doing. So this one was like instantly like, if you're not fucking either in grad school or out doing professional fucking work by the time you're out of college, well, you coming back here and doing a directing scene for a friend who just asked you to, hey, could you do this scene for me? I need some actor. Okay, cool. I didn't mind doing it. I was doing it for a friend. I wasn't there to be like, hey guys, I'm that guy that graduated and I'm still hanging out and partying with you. It's like, no, I'm just here to do a scene for a friend. It wasn't because I was just giving up and I've just given up. Oh, I graduated now. I just don't care. Fuck it. It just bothered me. Like, why are you talking shit? Like, the fuck? And it bothered me because it was someone that like I got along really well with. And so it was kind of like, okay, so what What's up with that shit? And it's like, I get it. Like, I get, like, I'm like, oh, hey, this guy's back to visit again. All right. It's like, what are you fucking doing? Like, but, like, it was a mentality there. Like, anyone who graduated, if they came back and visited, there was, like, this mentality, like, God, man, get out of here, It's very much that kind of, like, person, like, man, I graduated, now I'm coming into this party and hanging out at homecoming, And it's like, it wasn't the case. Like, I'd see people here and there, like, maybe people invite me to a birthday party or something like that, but, like, I wasn't, like, going out of my way to, like, just hang out. It wasn't like I was going to the campus to be like, hey, guys! It was like, a friend asked me to do a directing thing. Okay. Sure. Boyer was a good friend. I'm like, sure, man, I'll do it. So, yeah, little things like that. I'm not mad about it now, but, like, because whatever, it's the past. But it's just things like that. When people say shit like that, it's like, what the fuck is that mentality? It's just like this kind of that lowest fucking mentality or something. I don't know. It's just like it's like, all right, you better have a fucking plan if you're gonna be a fucking actor, and that's true to a point. But like, give me a break. I just did 2 summers in a row, Tecumseh, a professional job that I got paid for, doing 6 shows a week for 3 months. Give me a break. I want to rest a little bit. Like, not everybody has an instant plan all the time, and it's like they have these instant, like, you have to have a plan and you got to be able to move somewhere, and it's like, okay, yeah, to a point, but shouldn't you do that when you're fucking ready? And I wasn't ready yet. I was still figuring things out a little bit, and I was working and trying to make some money. So regardless, I'll drop the subject, but I just wanted to, touch on that. So because of that, though, I decided to audition for this, or submit for this company called Bridgework. And what they do is they would do these touring theater. They would go to schools around the Midwest and East Coast and stuff like that. And they were like conflict resolution plays, basically. Very much like those kind of assemblies where you'd have some person come in and, try to rap with the kids, so to speak, And a couple of friends from Tecumseh had done it. And so I was like, okay, and I was able to use one of them as a reference and all that. And so they're cool, But it was a whim. I was like, I probably won't get it. But, I was like, I figured I'd at least try, And one morning, I was just kind of sleeping in, because I usually worked in the afternoons. I can't remember if I had the day off or whatnot. And around this time, me and Anna had been talking about planning a visit. Like, I was going to visit her at her college in Virginia. Like, I was going to fly out and stuff like that. And right around this time, I got this call, and it was actually Bridgework. And they said, they wanted to offer me a chance to do it. And I said, okay, and the momentary thing of like, oh God, what if I do that though? And I won't be able to go visit Anna. But like, at the same time, I was like, well, it's an opportunity. I should take this, And I used Randy and Isaac and Marianne as references. And like I said, I had a great conversation with the person in charge. I forget what her name was, but she was very nice. And says, well, I'm going to just call your references and hear about how wonderful you are. And to their credit, they gave me great references. I don't know specifically what they said, but obviously I did get the job. And so I actually ended up quitting Myers. And my plan was, in my mind, because I was already going back to Tecumseh. I'd already talked to Marianne. I'd auditioned to be this priest, the priest role who marries Simon Kenton and all that. It wasn't a huge part, but it was a fun role for me, and I auditioned and really nailed the audition. And he offered me the role, so I already knew I had Tecumseh lined up in the summer. So I thought, great, I'll have this for the winter into the spring, and then I'll have Tecumseh for the summer for 3 months. And I figured I can either go back, and if this goes well, I can do it in the fall, and then by that time maybe Anna will be graduated, and we'll be able to figure out a plan. And so anyway. Okay, not important. This kid's phone just keeps beeping. It's like, shut up, I'm talking here. So this will be the part of the story that gets, unfortunately, a little bit emotional. Now, the first couple weeks were great. I was playing the lead role. I was playing a 9-year-old child. Very convincing with my height. Tallest 9-year-old ever. I also played like a 13-year-old in the other play. There were like 2 different plays. And I remember that the woman Viv that was my director, I really loved working with her. I wish I could work with her again because she was great. Just like she really brought out the best of me. I felt as an actor as well, especially at that time too, because I had Tecumseh where I was more or less part of the ensemble. I had a few lines here and there, but like I was not a major part, and that's fine. I had a great time. Tecumseh is a great show, and a great heartfelt show, and just it's just really great action, great story, everything. If you ever get a chance to go to Chillicothe, Ohio, and see Tecumseh, I highly recommend it. I would love to get back there someday. I live way far away though, so it's kind of difficult. They do reunions and stuff like that. I'd like to get to one sometime, but anyway, back on point. But like I said, I really loved working with her, and the other director was nice too. But like the one that I was in Iron Rush, there was just we got along really good, and we laughed a lot, and the cast was great too that I worked with. It was basically like 4 people to a cast, and you kind of like you do 2 basic shows, and you would just kind of have this like rolling stage kind of thing you had to put together and stuff like that, which was a new experience. Yeah, and I remember like them telling us about things of like people who had like lost their job because of like public spectacles and things like that, and things like that. So it's like, okay, whatever. In my mindset, not thinking anything like this is going to go like that, so no big deal. I was excited to be a part of this thing, and I'm trying to remember everybody's freaking name that was in my group. It's like I said, it's been a long time. Anyways, I was thinking it was Jeff. I'm trying to think what the other girl's name was. It was a girl, Afro-American girl, and then there was this girl named Sarah. Yeah. Now here's the thing with Sarah. I'll full admit this, okay? Sarah looked a lot like Kathy Kohler, who I had mentioned in my other love video. Who I often mentioned before I met Anna was kind of the quote-unquote one that got away, sort of, but not really. I didn't really have her, so she didn't really get away. But that kind of feeling of like, man, if I just, type of thing. And so there was momentary things, I'll fully admit, not necessarily an attraction, but it kind of like, it was like messing with my head a bit. And it wasn't anything of her fault or her volition, but it was just like, man, this girl reminds me so much of her. Like, she looks a lot like her. Her personality wasn't quite the same, but there was just like this momentary thing. And there was also this moment of guilt, because I was kind of attracted to her, but like not like in a major way, not like oh fuck my relationship, because I loved Anna deeply, but like it was just like, man, it was just because it was messing with my head, just because she reminded me a lot of her, and it wasn't like that was just like the first week or something like that, and then it was just like, okay, whatever, but like, yeah, so there was that escalation there, but. The first couple of weeks of rehearsals, we rehearsed for weeks before you go on the road. Freaking had a great time. We went out and did karaoke. We went out to dinner. Great time. We all got along great. We went to lunches together, all that stuff. I got paid pretty decently too. Like we were getting paid like I think $400 a week or something like that. Which by now standards are like, oh, that's not much. But for me at the time, it was like I'm making pretty good money here because Indiana is very much different than Washington in terms of pay and stuff like that, but for me, I was putting money away every week. It was great. And you could stay there, but I usually just drove back because it wasn't that far. It was like 30 minutes back and forth. I did drive in a really bad blizzard. Just driving behind this truck the whole time, like, oh God, I hope I make it home. So anyway, we're on the road. First week went pretty good. I remember we watched the Super Bowl at a restaurant. It was the Carolina Panthers against the Patriots one, which was a good Super Bowl. I just wish the Panthers had won. And we had a great round of shows. I think it was after the first week. I mean, we had a few bickering time because I was one of the drivers for the van, and me and the other guy would have to trade off. Everybody had kind of a job that they had to do, like, one person's like the person, the check-in person, like, let's check in, how are we feeling type of thing. Whether we talk about the show or there's an issue or whatever the case. Now, I'll fully admit that I was kind of like trying to go out of my way to be super friendly. And maybe, I don't want to say cleany again, but maybe a little cleany to the whole group. And so I don't know if that was having an effect, but like I remember we went to Cracker Barrel like the last day of the tour for the first week, and I remember like I was just like, hey, it's on me, guys, because I think I'd gotten agitated. I get agitated when I'm driving sometimes. If I miss a turn, I get oh fuck, but like who doesn't really? For the most part, I was like, oh son of a. But like so I felt bad about that, or like if I got into like arguments here and there about something, it was never anything big, and I would usually apologize and feel bad about it. And so anyway, so I was like, you know what? I felt bad about it, so I'm like, I'm just like, not that I had to. I didn't have to pay for all their meals. I just thought, yeah, why not? I'm making good money. Why not? We're gonna go Cracker Barrel. That's what we're gonna do. And it was a nice the first week, no problems at all. Or then a few hiccups here and there, like I got angry, but like we don't really have to, we're gonna bicker here and there, and it was not even a big deal. Like okay, we're gonna bicker here and there, no big deal. And the second week was pretty solid too, if I recall. I'm trying to remember if it was the second or third week or the fourth week. It's hard to remember everything. Obviously, it's way back in 2004. And so anyway, we had gone out the night before. Me and the girls had gone out to see a movie. Went to dinner, and Jeff decided to stay back in the room. I offered for him to come out. You want to come out? He said, "I'm just gonna chill." I'm like, "All right, cool." And we had a great time. It was fine. And then I remember that the next day is when things kind of everything went to hell, basically. Now the day itself was already stressful. The shows were fine, but like we had been talking for a while because all of our backs are hurting because we had to, lug this equipment around. And it wasn't freaking light, by the way. And we'd all been talking like, oh, I can't wait till we get to a hotel that has a hot tub. We go to the hot tub and just chill, and like loosen our backs up a little bit, So that great, cool. So anyway, I had to take the van because we had a van. It was the van we all drove in the van, and I had to take the van because I had to get some contact solution. So I knew there was going to be a Walmart up there, so I was like, okay, I drive to this Walmart. I'm going to go ahead and just, go to Walmart, get my contact solution, come back, we can go to dinner, whatever. Because we usually went to dinner together. Like it was very rare unless we had made other arrangements here and there, like oh, I'll just grab something later or whatever. We usually always went to dinner together, so that's why I was like, okay, we'll go to dinner together. My plan was to just come right back. Well, the problem is, I think I had to I can't remember exactly how, but I had to back the van up a little bit, and then I ended up getting stuck in a ditch. Just kind of not like a full on stuck, but just enough that the back wheels were stuck in the ditch. And so this truck was trying to help me and all that, and then I ended up he was gonna try to help me pull me out, and then I ended up realizing that I'd locked the keys in the car too. So it was like, fuck, this day is fucking sucks. So I had to have them drive me back to get the spare keys from the other driver. And as I'm going there, I see them walking to, there was like a Bennigan's or something. I forget what it was. I'm going to go with the Bennigan's. And they were all walking there to go to dinner. I'm like, you guys are going to eat without me, And the rest of them, I got stuck in the ditch. They're like, you got stuck in the ditch? I'm like, I got stuck, And it wasn't because, like I said before, with the truck driving, when I got the truck stuck at Tecumseh, it's like, I hadn't driven a truck. I hadn't driven a van before. I'd driven a car, There's a little bit of a difference in size of the height and, the width and things. Just like if you're driving a bus, it's a lot bigger turns and things. So I was already embarrassed by it, but it's like, okay, went back, got a key, drove forward, got my contact solution, came back. And they gave me some little side salad that they had, and I wasn't big on salads, and I'm good. And so my plan was to go get something to eat, but I was like, I'll just grab a vending machine thing or something. I don't know. But anyway, I was like, I called the girls up on their phone, and I was like, hey, do you want to go down to the hot tub? And like, no, we're just gonna hang in. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And I was chilling for a while. I called a friend, and then and this is back when I used to carry my CDs with me too, because I had a CD player in the van. And I thought, okay, I'll go down to the van and get my CDs. I'll just chill. I was just like, okay, everyone's just going to chill. I'm just going to chill, whatever. I wish I didn't go down for that. Because that's when things got bad. Um, because I walked out and I'm like, okay, the van's not here. And I thought, okay, well, maybe. My thought was, well, maybe Jeff liked to go for drives occasionally, just clear his head, whatever. Um, and by the way, he also was very much a very big proponent of the sticky green, as they like to say. Like he would literally after shows come to hotels and put a towel under the door so that he could smoke weed in the room. Because it was in Michigan and Indiana and things like that, which there was not legal there. Of course, this time was 2004, so it wasn't really legal in too many places. I didn't really care. I was like, whatever. And there was one time that we actually, me, him, and Sarah actually did, so that was my second time smoking weed was with them, and I liked it better with the pipe. I will say that. I don't do it very often, very rarely at all. But like when I did it, I was like, it sounds like the cigarette type of joint, which I just couldn't. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just maybe this is the way it was, but like I felt like that was better. So in terms of that, anyway, back to the momentum story. So first I'm like, oh, I wonder if he probably went for a drive at first, and so I think I said something about. I think I asked the lady behind the counter, like, oh, did you see them? Like, oh yeah, the three of them went. They said they were going to a movie or something like that, and I'm just like, at that moment, I'm just like, what the fuck? Because they literally just got over there on the phone telling me they were staying in, they weren't going to go anywhere, and then within 20 minutes, all of a sudden they're going out to the movies. And not even saying like, hey, do you want to come along? Like, I think I was being very considerate myself in terms of the previous night when we had, like, I didn't really care. It wasn't even about going to the movies. I didn't really want to go to the movies again myself. It's just to not even be like, they'd already gone to dinner without me, and like I said, if you want to just go to dinner by yourself, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But like, or go to lunch by yourself, or just like, oh, the two girls want to go off. Okay, whatever. That's fine. But like, and maybe I wasn't reacting like that at the time, but like, okay, that's fine. You want to split off a little bit, that's fine. But like most of the times we gone to dinner together. So it was just kind of like, okay, why are we going to, but now they're going to the movies with him, and that's fine too. I mean, I don't really care. The three of them can go to the movie. It wouldn't have bothered me. It's more just that like, what upset me was that it was like, you literally just told me you were staying in, and then you just immediately, no, let's go to the fucking movies again. Like, okay. And instead of like calling back and saying, hey, we're going to go to the movies, do you want to go? They just go. So that was what kind of set me off. And then that's what they told me. I just said they totally ditched me, because I did feel ditched, and maybe I was too emotional about it. I'll fully admit that. So I think I called Jeff's phone first, and I was kind of like, hey, I noticed you took the van, and he said you went to the movies, so I'm kind of like wondering what's going on with that. And then I just remember I was already enraged, and then I called Sarah's phone, and I think I left a not so nice message, which I do regret, basically saying, you guys, I can't believe you assholes, and you ditched me, and I kiss my ass and stuff like that, and I'll see you guys when you get back. It wasn't a threatening. I was no way threatening. I wasn't going to be there with a baseball bat, attacking them. It was nothing like that at all. I was definitely enraged. I'll fully admit that. I was on the middle of a parking lot, way away from the hotel, screaming on a phone for a couple minutes. Hung up. I went in. I remember I was still kind of shaken up. I was a little shaking about it because I fully admit, I've mentioned in my other videos, I have a bit of a temper. I get it from my dad. My dad has a temper. It is what it is. And I remember I called the boss and told her kind of what had occurred, and that I was just feeling like, I paid for meals for these people, and I try to be a very nice and giving person, and I just felt it just felt like a slap in the face. And yeah, I'll fully admit, no, I shouldn't have handled it that way. I should have just gone back to my goddamn room, watched TV, whatever. Talked to them about it when they got back, and probably been a lot more calm about it if I just let it be. Or vented in my room or whatever. But like, it was the absolute positively wrong way to handle it. But I remember I even went in and told after I did my little blow up on the phone, I went and said, you don't have to worry about it. I said, I was just blowing off some steam. I was upset. There's not going to be any issues. You don't have to worry about it. So I'm like, great. I talked to her. She said, don't worry, we'll talk about it and we'll get this resolved, whatever the case. That's what the boss told me. So anyway, they finally pull up and Jeff is on the phone talking to her and all that. And I just hear him saying, yeah, I haven't been impressed with his work at all. And, like, what? And then, like, I get in the van and we have this conversation. And Sarah says, I'll never be your friend. And I don't like being yelled at and things like that. Which, okay, fair. Absolutely fair about that, A lot of people don't like being yelled at. I don't like being yelled at. It is a very defeating feeling. I understand that now. At the time, maybe I didn't fully, but, like, I get it. Being screamed at. I've been screamed at my job before. It's not fun. It makes you feel just very small, and I totally understand that. But like it was just like being upset with me because I blew up. Absolutely valid. But he's telling the boss that I'm the weak link, that I'm not pulling my weight, and it's just like, what the fuck, dude? That's what ticked me off even more was that it's like, and like the other girl's like, oh, we're not obligated to hang out with you and all that. It's like, yeah, you're not obligated to hang out with me, but we've literally gone to dinner every single day this entire time, the entire run, up until this night. And so that's the only thing for me. It's like, okay, it's one thing if you're like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You don't have to include me. That's fine. It's just that, like, I guess the thing is, why I was on Tecumseh, it was like, there were so many people there. So it's like, yeah, you had people that hung out more with other people, but you had big parties, people were all there, whatever. Yeah, more people you hung out with, whatever. This is 4 people in a van. So I'm not hanging out with you guys. I'm hanging out by myself. Which, don't get me wrong, solitude is great. But it's like, it's more, and I understand why I was upset. I've said before, I was wrong to handle it that way. It's the wrong way to go. I should not handle it that way. We should have talked about it in person. I shouldn't have screamed on the phone. That was dumb. It was a dumb move. I should have calmed myself down. Absolutely right. I will full admit my faults in these things. My upset thing was more that now my work is being questioned. Now my acting work, or that I wasn't pulling my weight, or I was the weak link. What? I was driving around the friggin' place half the goddamn time. I was doing most of the goddamn driving half the time. So I was like, I am doing that job. As far as like helping set things up, I was still helping set up. I was still helping pull things out. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't doing anything. So anyway, after all that, of course, I could barely sleep because now I'm like still really shaken by this whole thing, and now I just feel like, fuck, how are we gonna get through this shit? And so we had the shows the next day, and we turned in. We got to the place, and it was really awkward. It was like the tension, you could cut it with a knife. Now, as far as the scene, one of the shows, the tension really worked in the scene. I'll say that much. Because I knew at that moment I had to work with Sarah on that scene. And there was a moment where I'm like, have to get upset with her. And it's like, it was as real as could possibly be. So in terms of that was great as far as an acting moment. Because it was like, okay, you really hate me, and I'm a fan of you right now. So it's like the tension is there. And anyway, I remember we went to dinner with our boss. The boss came in town. She lived in Chicago. And she met with us each separately to get everybody's kind of side of things. And then we had dinner and all that. And I talked to her and I said, look, I feel really bad about this whole thing. I said, I didn't want this to be as big of a deal. I just feel like everyone's criticizing my work, and I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I said, this was really, to me, it was a personal situation. I had my feelings hurt. I reacted the wrong way. That's the thing. I was never, despite anything, I was never not saying that I wasn't in the wrong. It was never like, well, it's all your fault, guys. It's like, yes, that they did upset me, but I was wrong. I was wrong to handle it the way I handled it. Abso-freaking-lutely. But like it was just, and that's what I was telling her. And she says, well, they said they can never be friends with me. They can never, and it's just like she says, oh, I think this will all work out. And she kind of reassured me and all that stuff. We had dinner. We drove back. I didn't really speak to them the rest of the time, really, except other than just like, hey, what's up type of thing. But and then I had the weekend, and I remember I talked to Anna on the phone, and I just felt really bad about the whole situation, and because honestly, I really thought I was going to get fired right then and there. When that didn't happen, I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's a chance. I was still going to be going on the road the next week. And my plan in my mind was to be like, hey, can we try to, start over, kind of get a clean slate. I'm not saying we have to be best friends, but like at least be able to be professional with each other and cordial to each other. That was my plan. I didn't really, I couldn't get the courage to actually say it because I felt really awkward. And I just remember like, it was one night I was sitting in there because me and Jeff had to share a room. And he was still kind of cordial to me, so we sort of got along okay. But it was still like, with Sarah, it was just like tension and like barely any conversation at all. And I remember like one night, he's just like, oh, we're going to go to dinner. And he actually told me, so I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to dinner. And he's like, oh, well, Sarah doesn't feel comfortable eating with you, so you might want to stay behind. And so I had to wait till they got back at 11 o'clock at night. Because it wasn't like we were near anything where I could just walk over and get something. I had to actually drive out and get something. I had to go out and get freaking Arby's at 11 o'clock at night. And I remember I called my best friend Christy and I was telling her about that thing. And she's talking about how ridiculous it was. And it's just like, what the fuck, man? It's like, how are they not, they're not being professional either here, because it's like, yes, I know this is tense. I wish the situation wasn't what it was. But we're on the road. We're doing this work. It's like, and now you're like shunning me from eating a goddamn meal with you. It's like, and yeah, that was the only time during that week that they did that. But it was just kind of like, it's like, good God. It's like, they were treating me essentially like that I'd slapped somebody in the face or something. And it's like, I didn't physically assault anybody. I called them assholes on a fucking cell phone. In an enraged manner, admittedly, but like there were no threats of violence. There was no violence intended. There was not, it was just someone who got emotional, felt kind of hurt by the situation, reacted the wrong way. Simple, cut and dry as it can fucking be. And I also remember we had this thing where they also tell us not to sign a bunch of autographs for the kids and all that because you don't want to hold them up. We don't want to do that, And I remember there was one time I was really popular. I was getting a lot of good reactions from the kids. And I already knew they hated me at this point. So I'm like, I'm going to sign every one of these autographs. I'm going to sign every freaking one of them. And I did. And because I'm like, you know what? Hey, these cats had a great time. This is a memory they'll remember. I want them to have my autograph. Great. Good for them. I want them to have that. And I wasn't going to let them take that away from me. So the rest of the week went as it was. It was, tense, but, slightly cordial. And we're on our way back after it was a Friday, I believe. It was, yeah. And the one girl who was kind of I guess, human resources, of the group, who's supposed to, says, oh, we're going to go back, we're going to drop Sarah's off at her car, and then we're going to have a meeting. And I thought, okay, great. I'm thinking, good. We're going to have a meeting about the tension and kind of just working through it so that we can move forward and keep going. I was hoping. I was like, okay, good. We can finally get this out. We can get past this and move on. I'm not asking us to be best friends. I'm not asking Sarah to like me. That's fine. Whatever. But I was thinking, okay, great. We can just at least hash this out so we can just move forward, because being excluded from dinner kind of is kind of hurtful when there's only 4 people in a van and 3 of them walk off. Just saying. Nowadays I just be like, oh, fuck it, I'll just go by myself, I don't care. Whatever, fuck you. But that time, yeah, I was trying to make friends. I made lots of friends at Tecumseh. I was hoping to make friends with this. So anyway, you get in there and I pull in and we pull in right to the office. So we don't go and get her car. So I'm like, okay, well, this is already kind of weird. Why are we going right to the office? But okay, well, we're just going to do it here. And then we go up to the building, which was where the meetings were and all that stuff. And I walk in and there's the boss. As I mentioned, she lives in Chicago. This was in Indiana. So my thought process right away is like, she's not here for no good reason. The previous week, she came out to kind of, and so I kind of felt it coming. I'd hoped I was wrong, but I kind of felt it coming. So she talked to all three of them, and then she had me come in last. And she asked me how the week went, and I explained how, like, the stuff at dinner and that the shows weren't really good, but that there was just underlying tension. And then she just breaks it, and she's just like, well, we're going to have to fire you. And, like, well, the hotel people thought that, was afraid they were going to have to call the cops. I'm like, what? I literally talked to that woman and reassured her there was no issue that she had to be worried about. She didn't have to call the cops. I screamed on a cell phone. I wasn't damaging any property. I didn't attack anything. I screamed on a cell phone for 5 fucking minutes. I sat in the lobby for a little bit and talked on the phone for somebody else. It wasn't, it was just like, man, I feel bad about it. But like, yes, I was enraged. I fully admit that. I was enraged in that moment. And much like I've said before, I get enraged and I let it go and I apologize. That's kind of how I go. Anybody can lose their temper. Simple thing. But I already said many times, and I'll say it again, I was in the wrong. Do I think I deserve to get fired? Yes and no. I should have been fired the previous week. Because the problem, I think, why I was more upset about it, and I understand more or less like they probably had to find another actor. That's why they waited a week. I get that. But from a perspective, I would have rather you just fired me the previous week. Because why tell me, I think this is going to work out okay, everything's going to be fine. Why reassure me, send me on the road for another week with these people that fucking hate me? And there's tension and there's like, all this stuff going on. Why put me through that just to fucking give me a death blow right there? So no, I shouldn't have been fired then. I should have been fired the previous week. Because then it would have been like, okay, I fucked up, whatever. But to be put through another week of fucking torture with these people was just like crushing, And I tried to convince them, like, why? But I'm just like, like, oh well, you can't. I know you're getting angry. I get angry too. You just can't do it. And just like comparing it to the situation they mentioned, where the guy's like pounding on the van, and like it was nothing like that. And this isn't me trying to cover my ass or lie. I admit what I said. I yelled on a cell phone for 5 fucking minutes. And then I hung out in the lobby for a little bit until I got back. I went back to the room and all that stuff too, but it was like, I hung out in the lobby for a little bit. I talked to the boss. Whatever. They came back. We had that whole fiasco. Whatever. So yeah, it was soul crushing. I went in my car and cried. I called my mom and broke down and cried. Because I'm an emotional guy, as you've seen. And she said, just come home, And so I did. And my parents are obviously very pissed about it because it's like, what the fuck, My mom was instantly like, why don't you talk about them smoking the weed? My dad's like, oh, don't stoop to their level, And I'm like, oh, I smoked it with them that one time too. I can't really. I mean, in hindsight, it's like maybe I should have taken them down with me, but it is what it is. I ain't no snitch. But for me, it was embarrassing because I'd been fired from a regular job before. I was fired from the deli, But for me, it was soul crushing because here I was. I did well at Tecumseh, and I had this Tecumseh job, and I was feeling really good about that. And I got this job, and I was feeling really good about that. And the momentum for what I was going to try to do going forward. That I thought this could be another kind of thing where I can come back and do this a couple times, and tour around a little bit, build my resume a little bit, and then to have it come down so quickly within like 3 to 4 weeks of being on the goddamn road. And also because I was embarrassed because 3 men that I truly respected in theater vouched for me. And I got my ass fired. And it was soul crushing. Now, luckily, I did turn around and get to go see Anna, which was nice. I flew there, and I didn't go back to Myers. I was going to try to go back to Myers, but I was only going to be there for a few months before I went to Tecumseh, so I still have the Tecumseh thing to look forward to at least. But I ended up working at Target for a few months, which was really nice actually. I liked working there. But I went to saw Anna. We had a great time. And it was great to see her and stuff like that. We planned on trying to, she was going to try to go out to Tecumseh, but then she wasn't able to do any theater that summer. But I will wrap this up because it is getting to an hour. But as you can see, it's still there in my soul a little bit. Because I had all this stuff from high school and then with college with all the stuff that Lois did to me. And then to have this happen, it was just like, ugh. And for a long time, I didn't even want to do any theater. Like, it was that painful for me. There were moments where I would just break down and cry. Because I felt so bad about the situation. I felt embarrassed by the situation, and I felt like I was never going to get to act again. I did start doing the sketch comedy with Donovan and the Sense Stupidity stuff, so that gave me something performance-wise. And then, of course, I did Tecumseh for the third year, which I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in the next video, because it's already getting long. But every year around that time, February, when it happened, I would always start thinking about it, and I would get depressed. And so I know this has gotten all emotional. Adam, why are you so emotional? Because it was emotional. For anyone who's seen the Turbo Turkey videos and some of the emotional stuff I have with that, it's kind of one of those things as you're seeing this, you can kind of see why sometimes I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder a little bit, because it's like, I don't know, just like blowing the scholarship. It was like blowing the scholarship all over again. Hey, I got this great opportunity, and I'm gone. So yeah, but like I said, up until I moved out here, and obviously got to do theater again out here, every year, like clockwork, February came around, and it was just in my head, reminding of how I fucking blew it. And I said, in the long run, it was a small little thing in Goshen, Indiana. In the long run, it really wasn't. It wasn't going to make me some big fucking acting star. And they're out of business now anyway, so hey, karma. Yeah, fuck y'all. As for the people involved in that situation, I hope karma came back at them in some way. Beyond that, I don't really give a shit. I'm sorry in terms of blowing up the way I did. But beyond that, I'm not. You guys are absolute jerks to me. So I handled the way it was handled. Wasn't the best way to handle it? No. It got me fired. But, it's apparently okay to treat someone badly when that type of situation happens. Treat me like I'm toxic, like people like to do sometimes. But, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that, I always see these type of things on Twitter where someone will bring up either after someone's dead, like a celebrity or something like that, where they just bash the person because of this horrible thing they did, or like someone finds something that someone posted 10 years ago on Twitter or something like that and decides, now you must be canceled for it or whatever. And I'm not really worried about the whole cancel thing, but I always think about, if someone was to do that, it'd be like that for me. It'd be like, oh, Adam was a really nice guy. And it'd be like, yeah, but you hear how he did at bridge work? He was a rage monster. And it would just be like, So I don't know. I've told that story to a few people, but I never told it on video. The full details on things. So yeah, I mean, this kind of got away from the honest thing, but it kind of tied into what was going on acting wise. So, but yeah, that sucked. It was an emotional time for me. And as I'll go on to the next time in the video, the emotions would continue to be drained that year. So I'll get into that next time. I'll talk more about third year at Tecumseh and stuff with Anna and such a pity a little bit. So thanks, guys. This has been another hour-long video with Adam. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. This emotional journey that's crushing my soul right now. No, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. It's water. It's so water under the bridge work, you might say. Because they're not in business anymore, and I'm still here. Ha 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 ha. Fuck y'all. Oh, he's cursing again. Damn it. But no, it's fine. It's in the past, and I've learned from a lot of things. You just gotta let the past be the past. You can't change what happened. You know, just like I can't change what happened with girls I pursued. It is what it is. You got to move on in life. That's just the way it is, and that's what I have done. I've been happy with the stuff I have done out here, that I've been able to come back from that horrible situation. So, all right, guys, I'm going to shut up now. I got some other things I got to get done. So, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll have some more videos of Adam and Anna tomorrow, some skits and stuff like that. And, you know, I'll probably take some movie review stuff or something. I've been watching a lot of stuff, because I always do. Cool, guys. Have a good day.